Hello, Taos.
Hello, Taos.
Happy 30th.
Happy 30th anniversary.
Wow, it's been a journey.
Yes, it has. I remember years ago when Saliha first introduced me to the Taos community. It was on some of you will remember, a conference that took place on a cruise ship. And I found myself at breakfast with Dan and Mary, just chatting away. And I think I have been very excited about the Taos community and very excited about these ideas ever since.
And that was 2009. My encounter with Taos was through Harleen Anderson when I came to Houston Institute to do my PhD internship and my research. And I just hearing some echoes of it. This was 1997. 98 is when I arrived. So I've been there pretty much from way back. And I met the set of ideas, Taos as a set of ideas, in my PhD program through Jim Keller at Virginia Tech, when we were reading books like Therapy as Social Construction, The Saturated Self, and these were literally like mind-blowing ideas for me, and I was like, wow. And then to meet Harleen and to actually have a chance to be with the HGI community expanded this practice into an embodied everyday experience for me. And the treat was to organize conferences. HGI and Taos Institute would organize conferences, and we did a number of conferences, and one of which was the one you're talking about.
Yes.
The one on the cruise ship.
Right.
And it was about performance and play.
Yes.
And I have to say, I was so looking forward to that particular event. And it was the first time in my life I had a sinus infection, totally stuffed up. And I was on the stage with Sheila for the opening ceremony. I don't know, Sheila, if you remember it. I couldn't think beyond the stuffed up head I had. And I think Sheila had to carry it all. But it was such an honor to plan.
Glorious moments.
Yeah. So we're talking of the flop moments, really. But these are also relational moments.
They are. They totally are.
Because I could depend on the relationships to make things that were of such great value and had so much feeling of pressure. We had been planning it for nearly a year, 2 years. And then to be sick and then to have all these relationships around you, to host you, to be in conversation. And I think that's what Taos is for me.
Right, that's sort of the magic of these relational practices, is they create such a sense of connection and co-creation that what happens moment to moment is constantly being, recreated and repurposed and found yet again. And that's been the value of my relationship with the Taos community, is I've been granted the opportunity to hear these conversations and to learn what it means to be a relational human being, in the sense that I'm now mindfully so. And that's an extremely empowering transition to make.
And that dog of ours is part of the relational community here.
Right, that's the one she's relating.
So I'm going to ask that question, because that's one of the questions that came up for me with my journey with Taos. And it's an ongoing question. What does it mean to be relational? What is relationality? And we wrote a book together, the Relational Book for Parenting, where that question came up. I mean, once we started to unpack through the book, I got curious what it meant for different people. And so we were at a conference where we did a number of videos asking a number of people, what is relationality to you?
Right. Well, that was another piece of our relationship to Taos. We had video equipment. We had the ability to do interviews. So we just started yanking people into a hotel room and shooting interviews. We had shot one interview previously with Ken at his house. And the end result is we ended up with well over a dozen interviews with some remarkably thoughtful leaders at Taos that are now part of an archive of relational ideas. And for me, that sort of playful sense of, hey, why don't we just start getting people and shoot video interviews, is part of what makes the ongoing conversation so interesting for me.
And can I ask you, what is relational in the sense of what's been your journey around that set of ideas, and what kind of work you do where you use these ideas, or how does it help?
Right. Well, I do a lot of work for clients in the ADEI space, that is the anti-oppression, diversity, equity, and inclusion spaces, and that is around, in my particular case, I do a lot of work around man box culture and dominance-based masculine, retrogressive business cultures. That is how masculinity has shown up in the workplace for centuries, and how that retrogressive style of business has put white males at the top of that hierarchy, and pretty much no one else has been allowed to co-create what business is until perhaps the last few decades. But helping folks in business understand that a significant shift occurs when we stop focusing simply on roles and tasks and status and deadlines, and begin to look at the full, rich network of relationships that make up an organization as being its primary asset. And when we invite people to begin to shift their gaze to that network of relationships, one of the great resources we're able to bring folks, especially in our new book, The Relational Workplace, is relational capacities that they can bring to bear on the process of learning to be in relationship with each other, in the moment by moment back and forth of relating, which is a recursive process by which they not only create and care for relationships, but by which they are shifting the culture of the organization and the larger culture of society itself, and the systems and structures that make that up. And then they in turn recursively then shift that conversation a bit more, and the conversations then again go back and shift those larger structures and systems, and certainly the workplace culture. This for me has been the power of relational thinking in the work that we're doing, and our goal in the relational workplace, as in the relational book for parenting, was to take complex ideas and make them accessible to anyone in the general society, in the general culture, to let them say them and speak them and provide them. And we use comic strips and stories and fables and all kinds of different mechanisms by which we help people understand that these are actionable ideas that they can bring into play right now, today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think for me that's what relationality is in the way, or I would even step back, social construction. Social construction is about making. And that we are makers. We make our society, we make a sense of self, we make the world together. And in the way you write a book, in the way we create a marriage, in the way we do partnership, all of those are activities of relating and making.
In the way we make a video.
In the way we make a video. Actually, we didn't even introduce ourselves when we started this video. So that's part of making a video, right? We said we were going to sit down and have a conversation.
That's right. Who are these people?
So who are we? Well, you introduced yourself to the book, and I introduced myself in some ways about how I came to Taos. I want to step back into those set of ideas. When I was at Virginia Tech, this is 1995, when we were reading these books, I was introduced to the notion of discursive. And I find that I've come a full circle in 2023 with this new book of ours, The Relational Workplace, in where the center of the ideas are about discursive, about how in language, how in our stories, how we make meaning together, how we engage and interact, we make the world and what we call the activity of life and living, right? And this notion of the discursive was introduced nearly 30 years back. And I feel this is part of being in a community like this. I keep coming back to it. I keep engaging it. When you talk about remaking, one of the first online courses that Taos did was through a collaboration with HGI in, I feel like saying, early 2000s, late 1990s. And it was an online course before online was even a thing. and I developed this course along with all the different members of the Taos community, and Susan Swim was one of the facilitators, and so was I, and we would, through email exchanges, unpack what these ideas were. And now we've come a full circle, and the course is being offered by Saliha, and it's on our creative space, the Commons. But these are ways by which we have been engaging the idea of training. What is it to train people in social construction and relational practices? So it's through these ideas. There are a number of, like, the PhD program came about, and I met lots of wonderful folks in that community as a PhD advisor. And then we started around the same time of about 2000, I would say 8, 2009, we launched the International Community of Collaborative Practitioners, and it's known as the ICCP community, International Certificate in Collaborative and Dialogic Practices. And that has grown exponentially. And I'm reminded of the last conference we had in person at Czech Republic, and the one before that in Spain, at Canary Islands.
Yeah.
And there were about 400 people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And these are just examples of what these are all training spaces. How do we learn together? How do we collaborate and commune together to talk and engage ideas? And how wonderful it is to see what Taos has created as a sponsor, as a host, as a community of people engaging with one another and sharing ideas and practices and inspiring on how we become pathmakers. We break down traditions and we make up traditions. And I think that, for me, is the spirit of the Taos community.
I will also say this. I've been a member of different organizational groups, different situations where I would be among a community for a period of time. And we all have those examples in our lives from when we were young until the present day. But I have to say, my experience of the Taos community and the people in it has been such a warm and curious way of engaging that whenever I think of, let's go to this Taos conference, I look at it as a way to connect and to network and to, develop my understanding of these ideas. But I find you all immensely interesting and engaging. And I can walk up to a bunch of folks sitting out on a patio and sit down and just listen to the music of the voices and the ideas flowing back and forth. Everyone has their own particular character. Everyone has their own particular charm. Everyone has their own particular, thing that they're being and doing and sharing. And I have to say, it's a fascinating bunch of human beings, and I'm glad to be a part of the community from that standpoint. It's damned entertaining.
Well, I think if we are all having a good time with each other, while making a difference in the world, while attempting to create pathways that hosts us, keeps us connected, keeps us engaged in this idea of our relationality and our interconnectedness, not only with each other but with nature, with what we are creating in the world, and lifts everybody up. I think we're doing a decent enough job to make a better world.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, that's what Taos is. It's an ongoing conversation about that.
Yeah. So happy 30th anniversary.
Happy 30th. And for those of you who are not familiar with Taos, join us, find us on Commons. And you don't have to be an associate, but if you're interested in dialogue and collaboration and appreciative inquiry in how we unpack interconnectedness, relationality, how do we play with each other to unpack power, and how do we perform with each other a better world that brings all of us together and lifts everyone together. Join us in this work. we would love to share and be part of projects and conversations and dinners with each other.
Yeah.
So thank you, Taos. Thanks for being here. And thank you especially to the board that started it, to the founding members, and to Don, who carried it so long and has just retired, and to Alex, who is going on as the executive director.
Marvelous. And if any of you would like to learn a little bit more about our Relational Workplace, you can come to relationalworkplace.com. We have some videos, we have some other content there. You might find it interesting, so drop by if you'd like.
And the videos that we were talking on relationality are on YouTube.
Yes.
So you can find them, and they're wonderful. I know a lot of folks use them in the teaching and practices.
Yeah, that's
as well.
at Think Play Partners on YouTube. So you'll find all the familiar faces.
Let's continue to have fun. Let's continue to make a difference, and let's make a better world. Thanks.